216 Creator Studios, your gateway to professional podcasting. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting, 216 Creator Studios offers state-of-the-art podcast studios designed to meet all your recording needs. From crystal clear audio quality to a comfortable creative space, we've got you covered. With fully equipped rooms, expert support, and flexible booking options, you can focus on what matters most, your content. Join us and bring your voice to life in the best environment for podcast creation. 216 Creator Studios is here to help you create something extraordinary.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Cappuccino behind the scenes here on another episode of Roger That Chronicles. Chris Boston in the house today with a special guest on screen. Chris, how you been?
Oh, pretty good. How about yourself?
Not too bad. You know, I think God needs to worry about his thermostat a little bit because it's been snowing and then it was 80 and then it's snowing again. I don't know if he's like, I wonder if they like this. And he just switches it. But it makes me laugh. But you know what? I have no complaints. I always look forward to this show. Always look forward to hearing the stories and showing the support to our men and women in uniform, doing all that they can for our country. And here at the studio, we do all we can to support them as well. So,
yeah.
Quick shout out to Chris Boston with the New Life Ministry and Outreach. Which is the mouthful. And what do we say, Chris? What do we say?
NLMNO.
Yeah, because say that 5 times real fast, right? That's great. Huh?
It ends up LMNOP.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a great show. Let's talk about our guest today. Today we got Bob in the studio. And how do you know Bob?
He is my father-in-law.
Oh, nice. And so you're a Marine mom.
Yes.
And he is U.S Navy. How do those conversations go?
They're pretty civil.
Well, I would hope so because I'm sure
they do work together.
He would remind you that the Marines are a department of the Navy, which is great as team. Great working as a team.
That's right.
So I'll go ahead and let you do the introduction.
Oh, sure. Well, you already said all the stuff that I would say anyway, so I don't have anything else to add to that.
Yeah,
so. We've got Bob today on the show, and he is a Navy veteran, 3rd class radarman petty officer. So welcome, Bob.
Welcome, Chris.
So why don't we just start off, and what made you decide to join the Navy? So kind of tell us that story, and then what you did and some cool stories.
Well, I was out of high school and I wasn't going anywhere. My dad had been in the Navy, so I followed his route and I joined when I was 19. And after boot camp, I was assigned to an aircraft carrier. And at that time, I was put in as a lookout, standing on the deck, making sure the seagulls didn't get too close. And so instead of going for where I thought I was going to do is be a aircraft structural mechanic, I decided to go into radar because that's where the lookouts were assigned. So I changed my striking position to a radarman, and from there we just kind of enjoyed doing the work. And right after I got aboard ship, we ended up being deployed to what they call Westpac, which was the far side of the Pacific, the Philippines, Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and that was a 6 months tour. And
What vessel were you on?
it was the USS Kearsarge. It was an aircraft carrier, and we had a complement with the air crew of about 4,000 men. So it wasn't a small ship. And from there, we just, all kinds of excitement all the time between this aircraft landing and taking off, and there were some scary moments, and that we had with the aircraft carrier for support. We had 6 tin cans or destroyers around us, and that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes we had 2 cruisers with us also. And they were for fire support and protecting the aircraft carrier, which had all the planes and pilots and that on it. So yeah, it was very interesting. After 6 months overseas, we came, after we got back, I was transferred to a cargo carrier. And it was just an exciting time. We were in the South China Seas as a show of force in the late part of 60 and 61. And then we went from there to the cargo ship. We went over and did it again, the same routes. We made a couple of stops in the Philippines and Hong Kong and all kinds of ports in Japan. And I don't know, it was interesting. And it was in the latter part of 62 and the early part is 63. And I retired in 64 when they took the canvas sails and the wooden oars away from us. And that was my career in the Navy.
Well, I know you've got some stories in there because you've told me lots.
Well,
so what was going on in the world when you were out there?
okay, well, the Korean War had ended 54, 55, so it had just got over. We had a lot of what they kind of called observers in Vietnam, but a lot of those observers were getting shot at and shot up. So when we went over there in the South China Seas, we were there for a show of force. And the excitement, aboard a ship is always there, something going on, that many people and that much activity. We got into port one time. We had been out to sea for a week. We pulled into port and we were there for about 45 minutes. 1/3 of our crew had gone ashore for liberty. We got called back out to sea on an emergency. So we went back out to sea with only 2/3 of our crew.
Oh, wow.
We were out for another 30 days.
Oh, wow.
Ended up by the Aleutian Islands, and we hit a storm up there so bad that the destroyers had to turn around and go with the storm. They couldn't fight it anymore. And the flight deck of an aircraft carrier is about 50 feet above waterline. And you have catwalks along each side of the flight deck. And the storm was so bad, it tore the starboard catwalk off. So for an aircraft carrier to get tossed around that bad, it was a pretty good storm. And we ended up having to cease the mission and turn around and come back too. So, but that was the longest I'd ever been out to sea, was 33 days. And it was exciting. And then
you didn't even have the full crew.
No, didn't. Well, they have, being we were an aircraft carrier, they did bring a lot of the crew back, the essential people back with planes. But we were out without all the crew, that's for sure. And when we got back, they transferred me to a cargo carrier that had been in mothballs after World War II. And
just what you want to go into.
Oh, yes. It was just hoping that the rust hadn't eaten all the way through the hull.
Gosh.
But we went all the way to South China Seas and back. Coming back, they noticed that we couldn't do full steam on it because we were so light that the propellers wouldn't stay totally under the water. And so they put us in dry dock when we got back, and what they did was pour a lot of concrete in the holes, the cargo holes, to weigh that the back end of the ship down to keep the screws in the water. But and that was we were up about 60 days, about 2 months up in Portland, Oregon. And I come back, and I was really worrying about Vietnam. It was really starting to build up in the early parts of '64. And thank goodness Dear McNamara was in charge, and they come out with a teletype. I was on watch, and a radioman come in, and he was waving this teletype, and he says, "When do you get out?" And I says, "If McNamara extended me, I'm going to go talk to him personally." And he says, you better read the teletype." And it said, "Anybody that gets out before June gets immediate release." So I got a 90-day cut on my enlistment. I was a kind of a surprise. I got out, and that teletype come in on a Thursday, and I waved goodbye to the Navy on Wednesday.
Wow.
It happened quick, yeah.
So when you were in, was there anything that you wish you would have experienced out there?
Boy, that would be a tough one. We experienced just about everything you could do on water. So,
You probably got tired looking at all the water. What was your favorite port?
which was what?
What was your favorite port?
Favorite port would have to be Honolulu.
Oh,
I mean, that is your main supply depot for the Pacific. And so being I was on a cargo ship, that's where we stopped. And at one time there was a typhoon that wiped out the biggest part of Guam. About the only thing standing when we got there was the EM club, fortunately. But and it's a funny story, but it was needed. there was a lot of cargo ships that loaded up with medical supplies and stuff like that. Our ship, we took about 50,000 rolls of toilet paper. It was needed, I guess, but there sure was a lot of fights when we got on shore because of the joking. I don't know. That was about it. That was the most serious thing. We had a small collision while we were out at sea one time when I was on the aircraft carrier, and I know one experience that was something else. We were on the cargo ship, and I think we were up by the Aleutian Islands, up close to them, and we hit, and the whale had to have been sick or injured, but we hit the whale and basically cut it in half. And the OD come on the intercom and told everybody that wasn't on a watch to lay up, and it had just turned the ocean red around the ship. But I wasn't on watch. I was down in the compartment, and it just buckled the whole ship. You would think that something that big hitting a whale wouldn't hurt it, wouldn't bother the ship at all, but it really buckled the ship. And those were the interesting things that happened. But they're small cities. You have everything happens, and you're out to sea. You've got to just take care of what happens.
So when that incident happened, did you guys have to go to some port to have it repaired, or did you have to start repairing it out at sea?
When we had the ship that collided with the aircraft carrier, it really rattled the OD. He hit the general quarters alarm. And of course, if you're not on watch or didn't know what it was about, you just felt that the ship being hit real hard, and then general quarters was sounded. And there was a lot of rumors going on for a few minutes about, what could have happened. But it was a destroyer that ran into our ship during a high fuel refueling exercise. Thank God nobody was hurt. Did a lot of damage to the destroyer. It did a little damage to the aircraft carrier, but not much. But at least nobody was hurt, and that was the main thing.
Wow. Did you have any other near misses while being out at sea?
Oh, well, when we were in the States, there was always some kind of exercise or training going on. Being we were an aircraft carrier, we got our turn of new pilots learning how to land aboard a ship. I guess you call them landings because they got down safely, but they sure bounced around a lot on the flight deck.
Scary.
Yeah, it could be, but those guys were pretty sharp. Their reflexes were quick and fast, and so.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of these pictures and videos here of people that fly and land on the aircraft carriers and take off from that. Now, listen, what plane is it that just comes vertical? What is that, Harrier?
Oh, the one that goes.
Yeah. So, which would I know? But
I think the Ospreys do that.
Yeah, they do that too. What is anybody? Whose job is it to run the snag line machine. I mean, that's got to be the most dangerous job on deck of an aircraft carrier, is it not?
I would think so, unless they've improved it. I know when I was in the service, I believe it was the Constellation came from the East Coast to the West Coast. They couldn't go through the canal because the ship was just too big. Wow. They had to come around the Horn. And there was quite a few sailors that got hurt when one of the arresting cables, after a plane landed and it was stretched out, those guys, when those planes landed, the smaller fighter jets, at that time, some of the flight crew would have to run out and jump on the tips of the wings because you had to have a crosswind of like 30 knots for them to land safely and take off safely. And they jump on the tips of the wings. Well, when the Constellation come around the Horn, one of those cables snapped, and there was quite a few sailors hurt because they had jumped up on the deck to run out and get on the wings and take care of the stuff. But it never happened aboard our ship, and all I can say is, the military, they really take extra caution and care so the guys don't get hurt. I mean, there's always incidences just because, like I said, they're all small cities and things do happen, but the military really watches that kind of stuff close. And the aircraft carriers, their sick bays are small hospitals. So things like that can be taken care of quickly. So, but yeah, that's a dangerous job out there on the flight deck when they're doing the takeoffs and landings.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask you also, I guess I'll just say a few words. Cuban Missile Crisis.
We were put on high alert, but our ship did not have to. When they do things like that, and it's through bad experiences of previous wars and incidents, you don't get caught with everybody in port. So the minute the crisis started, we were pulled out to sea, and with full complement and everything. But it was just another tour of duty out to sea for us. It wasn't anything other than the inconveniences not being in port. That's all.
So when you were called out, did you know what it was for?
Oh yeah. Well, maybe not to the full extent. It was an old joke with us. If you wanted to know what our ship was going to be doing next week, you had to go into town and talk to the people in the restaurants and bars. They knew what we were going to be doing. Most of the time we didn't.
Sometimes it's still like that.
Oh yeah.
And not just in the military.
The rumors fly, it just.
Well, too, I think, and I love it here. Like, I'm going to say a few words of this Cuban Missile Crisis, and he's like, yeah, that was just a day ending in a Y for us, because that's what they did every day. They dealt with problems, or they were training for the problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, a lot of times, and a friend of mine, U.S. Navy, told me that you couldn't tell the difference between the training exercise and what might be real, because it kind of kept you in the dark on that. Because panic, if you feel it's real or something, that panic can,
Make or
adjust.
break.
Right. It's different when you're training for it and you're training for it. But if you think you're still training for it, it's the real deal. You're not in that panic mode. You're focusing right on the job at hand. And I love how Bob brings up, these are cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's on cities, and that's no joke. I mean, layer after layer on a carrier, on a lot of the ships is both the hospitals, and somebody even told me there was a movie theater and a bowling room. And I can't remember. A friend of mine served on the Nimitz and then went to the Enterprise, and was like, it was like you didn't even know you were on water sometimes because it was so massive and would be handled. So when Bob says the storms are coming and you have to turn around, the aircraft carriers have to turn around because of the storm, that storm is pretty bad. And listen, I don't care how big your ship is, Mother Nature wins every time. Just because, it's you can't take on the world like that. My father, U.S. Army, served and was stationed in Germany. And that was during peacetime. And I asked my father, I said, what was it fun? Was it work? What was it? And he told me it was a party. And then he started telling me stories that he probably shouldn't have told me. And so my question to Bob is, were you ever somewhere to where it was just a great time? And are those and we'll keep it clean, Bob. Are those stories? Can we tell those stories? Maybe of a time that you and your boys got in a little bit of trouble, or something that doesn't have to be war related, but just something Bob related.
Well, first of all, I have to, being in the service, and even after the service, the particular jobs I've had, they weren't really jobs. I never, from the time I entered the military until the time I retired and quit working altogether, I can truthfully say I never went to work a day in my life. I enjoyed them all.
What did you do after you retired from the military?
I was a firefighter, and I had 28 years there. And they were both the same. They were just enjoyable, But the one time we were in Japan, and I think it was Sasebo, and one of the radarmen had been there before and knew this Mama-san, a woman, and she had a bar. So we went, and there was myself and this guy, Harry, and another man. And we went into the bar, and we decided that we were going to have a division party. So we talked the Mama-san in to holding the place open for us on a certain night just for us. And we all went in there for a party, and we put money in a hat, and she went shopping and got all the food, came back, and in a snowstorm, she sat down, hunched down, and had a hotsie pot out on the sidewalk and cooked a big dinner for us and brought it back in. We didn't get in any trouble for it, but it was just a great time. We had a good time, and it was just, you do what you had to do to make things go easy for yourselves. That's human nature.
So what was the most surprising thing you experienced?
the teletype that said I was going to get an immediate release.
So was that the best day, or do you have a different
Well,
best
Like
experience?
I said, I didn't have to go. I didn't go to work. I enjoyed my job as a radarman. I might have stayed in the service even, but I had met my wife, and we decided to get married. And going out to sea is not real good for married life, so I went ahead and got out. But no, I enjoyed myself, and all through my life, I've been blessed. So it's
Yes, and you're a blessing to me as well.
thank you, Chris.
Bob, I appreciate you joining us today and telling some stories. What a fun man, and you're blessed to have him in your family. That's great.
Yes.
We appreciate you taking the time and a little bit of headache of trying to figure out how to do the old remotes scenario here on camera, but you did a great job.
Yep.
You're hired if you want a job. I can truly say that we have a lot of fun here, Chris and I, doing what we do with this show, especially.
Yeah.
And, we would love to maybe have, come out. Is he local? Are you local?
No.
Where are you out of? Where are you?
They're in Colorado.
Colorado. Oh, man.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be nice and warm today, but yesterday it was cold.
Oh, it's heading here.
Yes.
That 50-mile-an-hour wind, what was it, last night or something?
Yeah, the night before. Yeah. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for all that your family does. And thank you for David and Tracy, especially David and all the grandkids. So.
Well, folks, listen, if you like what you see here today, go to the old Google box, click on that YouTube channel. You want to go to 216 Creator Studios. You're going to go ahead and hit that live tab. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and ding that bell for the future notifications. We appreciate your support here at Roger That Chronicles. If you want to stay tuned, Bob, to talk to Chris a little bit here, I'm just going to go ahead and put you back into the back. We're going to go ahead and run the intro out. It was great meeting you, and you enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
Okay, you too. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening.
Take care, folks.